Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar of Real Estate Investing for the Win. And today we're going to continue our multi-part series into rehabbing. And I'm not saying how many because I'm realizing the better we go in depth, the better it helps you. And we've got many different factors, nuances to rehabbing that I want to share. So this is a part 3 where we're going to focus on a deal analysis. This is a deal analysis of a simple rehab, right? And what I mean by simple, meaning not additions, not tear down new builds, not a full gut, because some of them can get pretty complex. So what we're going to do is today, we're just going to do a basic one where we didn't modify the house, but then next week, tell me what you guys think. If you want to do one where we do a rehab with an addition, right? We've even got some where we change the layout of the floor plan. Because Andrew, you'll remember we've done some houses where the floor plan and terrace comes to mind where like it made no sense. There was one house we did where you literally had to go through a bathroom to access the kitchen. It was so obviously it needed to be changed. So we can go through those modifications as well as then a new build where you tear down build 1, where you tear down build 2. So we can go through all those different nuances, but today is a foundational of just a basic rehab. And today we're actually going to cover a little bit of a creative a deal that we had to make because other people didn't see it as a deal. And Andrew made it into an amazing deal. Plus, of course, the time of the market. So we'll talk through all of that. So let's get started. So today we're going to deep dive into a case study, review the before property, utilize the information to create a repair estimate, and create a financial deal analysis. And of course, all of this we're trying to fit online in 1 hour. So we're not physically going out to the property. We're not going and getting bids. We're going to do it based off of the information we can present on computer. So we're going to go live now, and let's show you. I'm going to show you here. So let's take a look at some of the before pictures, shall we? Andrew, this will bring back some memories, I'm sure. So Andrew and I typically, we will divide and conquer. And this one was predominantly him. So this was some of the pictures. Andrew, why don't we go through the pictures and then you start afterwards, tell us about the deal. Is that fair? So we can focus on the pictures. So as you can see.
So I mean, the pictures, we had put a sign in the yard. We had gotten it under contract. You see a moving truck there. That was the family that was living there, getting their things out of the house. Some details about this situation. Sometimes there are houses that are distressed, sometimes there are people that are distressed, and sometimes there's both. In this case, it was both, and some of it was driven by a medical issue tied to the wife. I had met with the husband, and we always tell people you don't know the situations that people are in and what's gotten them where they are. In this case, I will tell you, I walked into the house, the wife was laying on the couch, and it was a couple minutes before I realized she was hooked up to a tube and bags and medical equipment. She was bedridden. She couldn't get up, and it was a very bad situation. Making it even sadder, if that's possible, is that they had 2 small children, actually the same age as our middle son, who ended up bringing them with me one day, and all of them played together in the backyard, which was fantastic. I know the parents were, I think, surprised and actually pleased to see the kids running around playing. So, this is a business we have, and we need to make sure we're not losing money and try and make money. But if you find yourself in a situation where you can help someone, that's quite a blessing. And in this case, it was a situation where everyone else had given up on this and not seen a way to do it. So I appreciate anybody that's watching this, whether it's live or later. And I apologize, I went to duck under the desk. I just realized I never hooked up my power, so let me do that. Um, but you know, the more you learn, the more chances you'll have where you can actually help someone. And honestly, someone who all they've done is watched HGTV shows probably wouldn't have known what to do here. So happy to share this information. Sweet, I'm gonna duck under the desk. Sorry, very professional.
So as you can see here, it's just a ranch. It's a two-car garage.
Little.
And as we went through the pictures, you can see it's just a typical home. Nothing fancy about it. But would you say, Andrew, pretty cosmetic?
Very cosmetic. A lot of the staining you see is from just dirt built up over time and inability to clean. Where you saw the bathroom being torn out, there was some deferred maintenance. You know, when the caulking isn't right, the tiles are broken, water gets in, and you end up needing to remove the tub and fixing some of the drywall. But I would label this as a cosmetic rehab.
Yep. Okay, so Andrew, will you walk us through how you found the deal or how the deal found you?
Yeah, I was about to say I worked my tail off. Somebody called me. Um, no, look, this actually came about because we used to do a lot of, we called it the rehab network. This was pre-COVID. We would meet on site at properties, and we would take people out there right after we had purchased them. We would bring people back a month or so later when a lot of the work had been done, and then we would invite people back at the end when it was on the market or during an open house, so everybody could see all the different stages. And it opened people's eyes because so many people were watching. And I don't mean to bash HGTV. I love HGTV. I watch it. I've learned a ton from it.
Yeah.
But there's limits. And one of the limits is they usually show, here's what you purchased it for. None of the strategies behind it, but here's what you bought it for. Here's what you put into it. Here's what it's worth now. And they leave out little details such as acquisition costs, holding costs, taxes, insurance. They leave out a lot. And what we found is when we have people on site, it's more an immersive experience, and people learn a lot more and they ask really great questions. So in this case, getting back to how we found this, a gentleman who used to attend those meetings, those meetups, called me and said, "Look, I've got a situation and these people really need help and no one seems able to help them. And I remember that you guys know a lot of strategies. Is this something that you could help with?" And I took the time to drive out to the house and meet with him and meet with the family. And that's how we found it. It found us, to your point.
Yeah. So from a marketing standpoint, right? What we found out is that network is huge. Network is the thing that will give you the best deals long term over time. But it takes time, right? You have to build the network, you have to be consistent with it. And then people will remember you when a deal comes if you're consistently in front of them at that time. So this one was the network, the result of continuous networking. And I really believe in a lot of organic networking as well. Person to person connection. I don't like the cold corporate feel. People like to know who they're working with and that they can trust. That makes them feel good. And fortunately, this wholesaler cared about these sellers and wanted to find a buyer who would care about these sellers. And so that comes into your brand character. And so that's what worked for us here. Okay, so the wholesaler couldn't make it work. Andrew, how did you find a way to make it work?
Well, so there are a couple things about this house. One, it's a nice house. It's in an area, a suburb north of Boston, close to major employers, close to I-35, the corridor from San Antonio through Austin to Dallas. It's a small house, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But when you live in an area where the average home price, I don't remember what it was then. I'm guessing it was in the 450 range. Austin is a very expensive area. So houses that are more affordable in a decent area are hard to come by. And that's what this was.
Yeah.
Um, So, and it's funny, I just came across my notes. I forgot, Linda, we actually presented this house. A lot of people would have presented it's like some big glorious mansion home or something upscale they had done. We actually presented this to a large group of investors while we were in Mexico, which I thought
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
I'd totally forgotten about that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the biggest key with this one is the highest sold price in this neighborhood at the time was only 170,000. And you have to be careful again when you say only, because in some areas that's a lot. In Austin, it's just not.
Yeah,
And
I just,
again,
Andrew, I was at the vet the other day and I was watching HGTV and they said that they bought the house for 866, 800, $8,600. And then they sold it for like 110. I was like, how?
yeah,
Where? That's not this market.
yeah,
So yeah, you're spot on.
yeah. So this was an affordable house. Here's the problem: they owed, and I don't have, I believe they owed on their loan somewhere in the 140 range. Do you have the number in front of you?
No, actually it was like 85,
Oh, oh, here it is. Okay. So here was the problem with the amount of work it needed done.
which is mind blowing that these numbers were, this was, we bought it at the end of 2016. So it doesn't feel like that long ago, but the numbers have, the market is so different now than it was then.
Yeah, and I apologize. I've got it all in front of me right now. So as I said, the highest price sale price in the neighborhood was 170, but it was a bigger house with a pool, with a really nice pool. This house didn't have a pool. It was a smaller home. We figured pretty accurately at the time that the ARV, the after repair value, would be about 140. The problem is, in order for them to get out of the existing loan, they needed 86,000. Then we estimated conservatively, and you saw the condition of the house. We had to gut a bathroom. We ended up having to kind of tear out the part of the kitchen, a lot of walls, a lot of floors, roof, I think.
Yep.
We had a lot to do on this house. It was lipstick, but it was a lot of lipstick, a lot of makeup. So
Hmm.
we came up with being able to do repairs for only about 30,000. But that's still, now we're at 116. But then you've got to add in, like what I said, they don't cover on TV. You've
Well,
got money costs.
let's put these numbers in front of them so that you can, uh, okay, so you were thinking that it was 140.
Mhm.
Can you guys see this big enough?
Oh, this is great.
Okay. So what do we assume at the beginning? So, and I've got the rehab list here that we can go through and just kind of get to there. So purchase price,
Mhm.
what did we think in the beginning, Andrew? So I can fill it in
Uh,
because I have what I had.
So we had 86,000 for the purchase price. For money costs, I had all in at 7,840.
Okay. And that was using hard money?
Yes, because we didn't have that money sitting around.
Yeah, but just the financing type was for a full purchase at 87
Right.
yeah.
So marketing costs, which would include marketing after, when you go to put it on the market and you want staging, you want pictures. We had that at 1650. Taxes at 1700. Closing costs. Okay, realtor commissions, I had at 8,400. What am I missing here?
So the rehab was 30.
Oh, rehab expenses 30. Uh-huh.
And was it so I know that we bought it November 30th. Was that estimating a 6 month hold
I
from the
believe
beginning?
so. And
Yeah.
things that aren't on what you've got in front of you, you can add it in somewhere else. So insurance is 500, utilities is 300, so there's another $800.
Let me put it here. Because I had it in a different number. Okay, so holding. Right, so say it again
800
for taxes,
taxes and
for
insurance.
insurance.
No, for insurance and utilities. So
Yep.
we kind of don't need to go any further at this point because here's where we are. Um, an expected profit of $2,210. Look, would we do a project that would help someone who is very ill and their family needs help? Absolutely. Can we afford to do that with a margin of $2,000? That's pretty small. Things happen during rehab. Sometimes surprises happen. You open a wall up and you find something you weren't expecting. I can tell you, I went to sell a house one time and found there were bats in the attic, and it was in the spring, and it was mating season, and it's illegal to remove the bats. You actually, not only did we have to wait to remove them, but then when we went to remove them, we had to do it in a humane way. It must have cost $20,000. I was not expecting to pay. So that 2,200 in profit can disappear in a huge hurry, huge hurry.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So fast forward now to, we came up with a second idea. And the second idea, I don't know if you want to delete some of that stuff. I don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna replace it. Go ahead.
So,
So the just so you know, these credits is so we bought it. Sorry, we can estimate that, right? So we bought it in November, right? So that means that we get paid by the seller the taxes that they would have paid for the year. So this would be through November. So if it was 1,700 for the year, right? Times 11 months, so equals negative 1,700 divided by 12 times 11. Right? So we should have gotten that as a credit.
okay. So I don't know if you want to delete the other numbers and we'll go through and
Yeah,
add them in.
perfect.
So first thing we did is we found a way to save on the money cost. We essentially bought this house subject to the existing loan being in place.
I'm not sure that everybody knows what a subject to means. If you'll
Go
walk us
ahead.
through that.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So basically there's, a hard money loan means a hard money will never be in second position, and they can bring the bulk of it, and typically it's asset based, so it's easy to get, right? So if you, in this scenario, in this B one, we would have had to borrow the purchase, the rehab, the money costs, holding costs, and marketing costs. All of that comes out of pocket during the build. This money comes from the seller. So I don't have to borrow that money, or from the buyers. I don't have to borrow that money. So this amount, which would have been 126,000, right? In this scenario, we would have borrowed 126,000 from the hard money lender. But that's kind of expensive, right? It can be anywhere from 1.10%, probably back then, to now 2 points and 12, 14%, or higher, right? So subject to is another option. So in this case, the seller owed the majority of what we needed to borrow. And so it was $86,000. So we could take over their mortgage. So we're buying it subject to existing financing. And that simply means that the deed moves to us, but the mortgage stays in their name, and we're making the payments on their behalf. So let me say that again. We buy it subject to existing financing, meaning that the deed moves over to us, the mortgage stays in their name, and we're making the payments to the mortgage, right? And so people talk about the due on sale clause. Let me explain that for a second. So a lot of it depends on the state that you're in, and depends on the loan specifically. When the loan, if the loan moves away from the collateral, right, there is a potential that a bank could call a note due. What we found is that when you've got a non-performing note, meaning that they're behind on payments, can't keep up, banks love all of a sudden getting paid, right? So you want to be added and pay it. And now it's a performing note. If it's a very short term, like we were looking here, it's a very short term, it's unlikely that they're going to do a due on sale clause, and they could be allowed to do a due on sale clause. In this case, we did a partnership with the seller where we made the payments on their behalf, but we got the deed. So we were in full control of the property.
Yep.
But what that means is that instead of us paying 10, 12% plus points, Andrew, do you happen to remember what their interest was on this property?
I do not. I
It
do
was
not.
probably like 3-4%, right? So if I'm now paying 3 or 4% on an $86,000 mortgage versus I'm paying 2 points and 12% on a hard money loan, I can now save that money in the meantime. I can save that money and make the deal either better or put that money in that pocket. And in this case, it made it so it wasn't a deal and turned it into a deal by taking that approach.
And I want to
Debbie.
answer the question that just
Mhm.
popped up. Thank you, Debbie. That was a great question. Did they have back payments that we had to catch up to make it current? They did. They did have one payment that was due that they were not going to be able to make. And I was going to share it to the end, but I can share it now because it makes just as much sense now, maybe more. Because when you're talking about acquiring a property, you've got to talk what do the people need? What do they need? What do they want? But what do they really need? And in this situation, they were stressed to the hilt. They were so stressed. They had so much going on. And what they saw coming was they actually had somewhere else to go. They had a place to go. The problem is because of the leak in the roof, there was a hole in the ceiling because the roof had leaked through. When you have a leaky roof and a leaky bathtub or leaky shower, it makes it really hard to sell the home because you can't get a traditional loan on it. So they were going to need to do these repairs in order to sell the house to get out of it. And meanwhile, while all that's going on, they have loan payments building up. They actually had a family member to go live with, and they were going to be fine. And that's what when you saw the picture of the moving truck, that's what happened. So what they needed was for someone to come in and either buy it, or as we came up with in the second situation, using a subject to just take over the loan, make the payments. And that's what ended up happening in this situation.
And taking over payments and now making the payments current also helps their credit.
Yeah, they went from being delinquent, facing possible foreclosure, to being current on their payments.
Yeah.
With some money in their pocket. They were good.
Yeah.
They were
Perfect.
very happy, actually.
Okay.
So the second
Fill it
one, we
in.
can go through the numbers real quickly. Purchase price stays the same. Rehab costs actually came down to 26,000. And I'll tell you one of their ways. I don't know if you want to show a picture of the house again, sweetie. So we have a recycling center here in Austin, and one of the things they recycle are paints. And they take all the light color paints and they put them all together, and you end up with this creamy beige color. Then they take all the medium paints and they put them all together, and somehow they come out with this greenish color. It's a greenish bluish, but more green. And then they put all the dark paints together and come out with this brown that I don't know. I want to be careful because there's someone here who may love that color, but I don't. If you have little kids, you know what that color brown looks like. Anyway, this paint for this house was completely free. It came from the recycling center. So there's little things, little ways that you can knock down your repair costs as long as you're not too picky. And on a higher end home, we would not have been able to do it. If we were in an upscale neighborhood with an HOA, they probably would have said no to that color. In this neighborhood, it actually looked really nice when it was done. So we found ways to save money. We brought the repair cost down to 26. The money costs, I'll let you get back to that. So that was 26. The money costs came down to 3,600. We still did have money costs because we had to borrow some money for the rehab, because again, at this point we had a lot of properties going on. We did not have the money sitting around. And
we still made the mortgage payments.
And we had to catch up on a mortgage payment. Holding costs, we realized this was going to be tight and we need to do it faster. And when you do it faster, your holding costs go down. So the insurance and utilities, I've got here 533. Marketing costs, we brought down to 650. And I cannot remember if it was that we did not stage the house.
We did.
Did we do it ourselves? What do we do?
Do you want to see the after pictures?
Sure. I don't remember.
You will. So these are the after pictures, and this is the free paint.
Yeah, and I apologize that the bottom of the house, we had actually cleaned it up, pressure washed, and then it poured and the dirt got on the brick. I was not happy about that. All the mulch, the dirt got on it.
Look at your little landscaping.
Mulch is so
You do
simple.
what's appropriate for that area for those comps, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you can do full staging, no staging, or in this case, it's very light staging.
They call it vignette staging, where it just kind of gives you an idea of where everything would go. And this was a friend of ours that did this.
Yep. So you tiled the whole floor.
Yep.
Fixed all you left popcorn ceilings? What?
It's not popcorn. It's acoustic
Acoustic.
ceiling.
But the comps were popcorn or acoustic, right?
Yep.
So if you replace it just because you don't like it, you might take it out of the price point for the people who could live there and afford it.
And if you just stop there, like nothing in here is upscale. These light fixtures are lower end from Home Depot. They work great, but they're simple, basic fixtures. Same thing with the tile. By the way, if you ever have a smaller home, run the same flooring throughout the home. It will make it look a lot larger. Use white on the
Well,
walls. It will make it look a lot
and
larger.
something you've taught me is, so like this is rectangular tile. It looks like you did broken joint, right? Which simply means you put one here, it looks like a brick pattern. But there's always a debate on, do I run it horizontal or do I run it, portrait or landscape compared to the front door? It looks like this way you ran it parallel to the front door, right? So when you walk in, it's going side to side. Why that instead of the other way?
Because that's the longest direction of the house. It made it look bigger. It just made it look wider when you walked in.
And so these are the existing cabinets, right? All you did was just
New
refurbish
hardware
them.
and painted them white.
Yep.
Put new granite countertops. If you live somewhere like we do, granite's cheap in Texas.
Well, and these are small enough sections, right? So like we know contractors who work on big projects and
They have remnants. They have leftover pieces that would cover this kitchen. This
yeah,
cost this. I would be surprised if this was even $1,000 for all the granite.
yeah. And so just the simple appliances, right?
Yep.
And we always do professional pictures because it makes a huge difference on lighting. And we've sometimes felt guilty that the pictures will make the house look way bigger than it really is in our feeling.
Did you get the picture of the back of the house with the light fixture?
I don't know. So you
And
just,
actually, that picture is important right there. Um, this is a ground floor. Most of our houses, it's you do what's right in your area. We have a lot of allergens here in Texas and Central Texas. People don't like carpeting because and we have a lot of pets here. We're very outdoorsy and we love our animals. People don't like carpeting here. However, it's a price point thing. Carpeting was cheaper to do, and people in this neighborhood were fine with carpet. If we had gone double this price point, we would not have had carpet in here.
yeah. And I think now our go-to is more just luxury vinyl plank, right?
Yep.
And so then you did the same tile, right? In the bathroom on the floor and surround.
Yep.
Kept everything simple with the
This is the
white.
bathroom we were looking at earlier that was gutted.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out
And you
nice.
didn't do any fancy accents. So one thing to note if you're designing a house is because I've seen some investors call out like that the tile job wasn't done well. And what we discussed and what we realized is that they were doing a very intricate tile, but they didn't have the budget for the skill set to match that design. right? So if you don't have a high budget, keep it simpler with bigger tile pieces that don't require a high skill set. If you do an accent, just do a small accent where it doesn't, the imperfections don't have to be perfect, especially on a lower price home. The
Oh,
more higher design, the more intricate the detail, the more cuts they have to make and angles they have to make, the higher the skill set and the higher the cost. So just bear that in mind.
yeah, and another way to say what Linda's saying is we've done some pretty upscale, intricate design work, and we're very capable of it. Look how simple this is. That's what was appropriate for this house. And look, if you make it too much nicer, now all of a sudden you've priced it out of the neighborhood and priced it out. You've made it too high a price point for that area. You've actually limited who can buy it. So keep it
Well,
simple.
and Andrew, my memory is that granite countertops and real tile surround versus like a plastic surround was actually an upgrade for this neighborhood.
Yeah, you're stealing my thunder. So everybody pretend you didn't
Oh,
hear that.
sorry.
Go.
Perfect. Yeah, so you didn't even change the windows. You didn't change the doors, just the hardware, right? Just painted.
Actually, those shelves, that was a closet with a door at one point. We left open shelving. I can't tell. Is it upside down there? No, it's right side up. Sorry, one of the surprises when doing this house is we left the electricians one day and we came back and that light fixture to the right of the sliding glass doors was installed upside down. It was fabulous. And again, this is free paint. And it may not be your favorite color, and that's fine. It's not my favorite color, but I'm never going to live there.
It looks like the house next door.
Yeah,
Maybe they use the free paint too.
maybe.
So nice backyard. We didn't do the fence.
Didn't sod it, didn't put in a sprinkler system, didn't put in trees, didn't we just cleared it, mowed
Did
it,
you
made
patch it there?
yep, made sure it looked nice, made sure it was secure.
And that was it. So let's go back to these numbers.
Okay, so by doing it faster, we got the property taxes down to 1133.
Oh, okay. So minus. Uh-huh.
Realtor commissions, this is when the market started, it just started booming right after we purchased this. And we realized how tight things were, and we found a realtor willing to give a discounted rate on this. I think it was actually someone that wanted to work with us long term and get a chance to show us what they could do. So instead of paying 3%, they offered to do it at 1%, which brought the commissions down to 5,600. So the property taxes, my memory on this, and I'd have to go through detail in my notes. One was getting it done more quickly. The other is that the taxes, for whatever reason, in this location had gone down from the previous year, where they were overestimated from the previous. There was
Mm.
something wonky about what they had said the taxes were going to be and what they turned out as. But the other part is this is all tied to holding costs. And if you're going to be doing rehabs, time is everything because the holding costs will eat you alive. So by getting it done more quickly, you save on insurance, you save on taxes, you save on money costs. It's a good question. I'm sorry I don't have the detail on that, but my memory is that it was getting it done more quickly. There was something off on the taxes.
Mhm.
Um,
And recognize that this is not necessarily a year's worth of taxes. It's how much taxes are you liable for the period of time that you held it,
yeah.
right? So when we sold it, then we then had to pay, if you didn't, because it was sold, actually, let me put that in. It was sold, I think, 2/24, 2017. So it was sold, in about 3 months, right? So basically
So
the taxes were due. Go ahead.
no, so go back to the top, put in 140,000 for the ARV, and then your closing costs dropped in. So all of a sudden the profit jumped up to now it's over 15,000. So that's pretty doable, right? So the 2,000 is pretty tight. 15,000, you start feeling a little more comfortable. The next thing that happened is we were paying attention, and we did this rehab very quickly, but you still got to know your market and see what's going on. And we were watching as prices were going up. We just saw it happening. It was happening right in front of our eyes. Realizing that, that's when some decisions were made, and that's when we decided, you know what? It's worth putting an extra 1,000 into the granite countertops. It's worth updating the hot water heater. It's worth it to just do some extra things on the home. And we actually only put an extra couple thousand in. And I don't know if we want to put all the details on that, but we basically just put a couple thousand more into it. And what we found is that all of a sudden the ARV had jumped up from 140 to 155. Now, the clincher is where we finally ended up at. And I guess we can do that in this column, sweetie. I'm
Well,
going to put the final.
yeah, um, so this was now 155, right?
Nope. It was
Is
fine at
what,
it was fine at
huh?
140. It was at 140.
Well, when we actually, after we bought it, we estimated that the ARV was 155. Because uh, what I had was that we actually sold it for 177.
Okay.
And then this puts in the extra money, right? So this was 3,600. So it turned into a really good deal where people couldn't see it as a deal at all.
Yeah, these people they were weeks away from being foreclosed on. And no
Yep.
one wanted it. No one wanted it. At the very least, and I know Linda changed the number on that middle one, but at the very least, it had a 15,000 margin. At the
Right.
very least, just knowing how, just a little bit of knowledge meant you had a property with a $15,000 margin. And
Well, and
then
then the
when you do
other,
those things, sometimes you set yourself up for more opportunity.
and to that point, Andrew, I don't know, don't do that. Um, talk about buying properties or selling properties in November, almost December versus late February, right? Because there's always a cycle in real estate, right?
Yeah, so this is a family neighborhood. So I'll give you an example. We've bought tear downs in downtown Austin. The school systems in downtown Austin, they're horrendous. They're horrible. No one cares. But people aren't moving there for that. When you move into an area where people are looking for a better school system, and by the way, this house, actually, the one we're talking about, is in the same school system as the house where Linda and I live, where we've raised our kids. So it's a decent school system. When you're in an area that nobody cares about the school system, the time of year doesn't matter as much. People are moving for jobs. It's different. When people are in an area where they have good, decent schools, then all of a sudden you find that, say, between late February, March through early summer, that's your hot time on the market. And that's what this was. We
Yeah.
actually hit the
So
market just a little before everyone else, and it worked out really well.
yeah. And we talked about this in some previous webinars. If you look at everything in a pyramid, right, the majority of buyers are in the lower price point, right? So there's high demand. Whereas, and it's a lower price point, but if you're at the top of the pyramid, you've got higher price points, um, fewer buyers, right? And so in this scenario, this one actually had low risk because it was pretty cosmetic. It was buying at the right time of the year, selling at the right time of the year. And it was to a price point where there's a lot of demand. So we took that on, positioning by that, but then also benefited from the market that we were in because this was, an appreciating market, especially from the end of the year to the beginning of the year. And you always have to pay attention to not only the deal, but also the market, right? And where you are in that market. Would it make sense to go through at a high level, just the repair estimator?
Well, I was going to say, now can we talk about the mistake we made on this house?
Always.
So you can see we sold this in 2017. So we sold it, 7.5 years ago. I'm not going to take the time while we're on this to go into MLS and run accurate comps on it. It would shock me if this is not a $350,000 house now.
Right.
We sold it for 177. So maybe a better strategy, and we didn't know it was going to appreciate that much. You're just betting on appreciation. But what if instead of selling it for a nice profit, which we then use to buy other properties and do more? So it's not like we made a huge mistake. But picture and imagine if we had refinanced this. Again, more strategies the better decisions you can make. If we had refinanced it, rented it out, and been making money all this time, and then now instead of a house that was worth 177, we had something worth 350.
Yep. Oh, because we had paid down, it was actually 73,000 was our payoff. Yep. Yeah, so we sold it for 177. It was a beautiful project. Yeah, we should have kept it because the rental would have been close probably.
Yeah, even if we broke even, right?
It would appreciate. Yeah, the house nowadays would be worth what?
Like I said earlier, I think it's in the 350 range.
Huge. Okay, so if we went through the repair estimator, right? So on this one, we said it was about 1,700. Let me just make this even better.
And while Linda's doing that, I'm gonna let everybody know I use a completely different tool for estimating repairs. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you use one, that you've got something that holds you accountable and makes sure that you're not missing stuff. Where people get in trouble is they look at a house and think, oh, I can get this done for 20,000, or they have a contractor say, oh, for 30,000, I can make this look beautiful. And you don't have all the details and you miss stuff. So it doesn't matter what you use as long as you're using something.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is remembering also, are you doing it for a budget to say I can purchase this, or are you designing and doing construction to it where you have to get into the details, right? So if I'm doing an entire kitchen, I've got a bulk price, but when I'm doing construction, I'm going to go buy the material, do install the tub before, way before I do the tile, and you might want that breakout by trade versus when you're buying, you want to budget as a whole to say where are my deal numbers so that I can negotiate. Okay, so we didn't do any, let me make this bigger for you guys, sorry. We didn't do any tree mitigation, grading, stake form, water meters. We didn't do any foundations. You didn't replace any windows, right? Did you replace any doors, garage doors? Right, it was just paint.
Interior doors,
Huh?
some interior doors.
Do you remember how many?
I do not.
Let's put 5, right? Did you do any outside roof, wall? No, right?
We did the roof.
You did the roof, but not siding, right? Anything, so the HVAC system, did you just do a service on it?
You don't remember?
No. Was that, tell me.
We actually we were doing another rehab, a higher end rehab off of Shoal Creek, a higher end area where there's $1 million homes. And there was one where expanding the footprint of the home, and the AC unit they had in there was a high-end AC that was going to be too small for our needs, and we transplanted it.
Yep, I remember that. Sometimes I don't remember which house was which, so I do remember that. And then, so painting interior, yes, well, we did both interior and exterior. But you didn't do all of it because some of it was already brick. Right? Perfect. And you did do the tubs, toilets, fixtures. It's just one bathroom, right?
2 bathrooms.
2. Drywall tape float texture, yes, but it was only patches, correct?
Correct.
Interior paint, yes, all new paint. Yes. Do you remember how many square feet this house was?
It was
Like 1,000?
1,200.
So interior doors here was yes. That's where I put 5. New baseboard trim. No, I think you just painted, caulked and painted, right? Cabinets. I'm gonna add in here. Countertop and sinks, yes. So here's the piece that I would also say when you're, remember where you are in the process. So when you're looking at a house to put it under contract, you're not designing. Specifically flooring, right? Oh, I want this kind of flooring here and I want this kind of flooring here. And then you start measuring each piece. But at the end of the day, if the tile is somewhere around $5 a square and the carpet is around $3.50 a square, and then you've got vinyl plank or wood, and it's kind of a blended rate, don't worry about designing, because the more time you spend designing, you need to be spending on negotiating, right? After you own it, then you can get into those details of measuring this kind of tile, this color here, this design here, this layout here. And between us, Andrew's a designer, right? So I like to say the entire house around $5 a square. If I'm doing higher end, I'll go up in price. But usually I'll just say $5 a square for the entire house. And in this case, Andrew, you ran the same tile throughout the house. We've done houses where we've done concrete, stained, polished concrete, and then we did a combination of like wood or vinyl plank and tile. And we've done houses where we've done vinyl plank throughout the entire house. But again, it was an average of like $5 a square. So backsplash, yes. And then appliances, yes, but we didn't do there was no fridge, right? So that's why the price stayed down. I think you did a couple of light fixtures, but that was
By the way, I
probably,
did pull up an MLS.
yeah,
In that neighborhood, the exact same house, 3.2, 1,215 square feet. Just sold in the past year for 334.5. Yep,
yes.
you got it.
And then you GC'd it yourself. See, there was no GC fee, right? So just at first blush, that's at 32.5. Right? And so you can go back and tweak, because like on painting, for example, what Andrew said is that we got free paint. So instead of $5 a square, it was probably 3.5 a square. Right? And so on
Based
that
the
one,
paint.
huh?
You still have to pay someone to paint.
Right. Exactly. Um, so
And
you
by
didn't
the
do
way,
high-end.
be careful with that. If you have really good painters, they wouldn't want to use this paint. If they run it through their high-end sprayers, it'll ruin the sprayers. It's good for painting a small house. That's
Yeah.
what it's good for. Hand brush, painting a small
And
house.
you used it on the interior as well, right? Interior and exterior.
I don't remember that we were able to get the enough of it for the interior.
Okay. So this already puts it at close to that 30 mark because
So you're
you
saying I
didn't,
was right.
yes.
Okay, I'll take it.
Because you didn't do a broad brush. You said you got into the details
Yeah,
okay, we don't need to do the whole kitchen. Let's refurbish the cabinets. Let's find countertops that we can use. And I think on the countertops, um, I put that countertop here at 1,500 with sinks, and you probably even got it for less than that because the contractor wanted the work, and they had remnants left over from part of their other jobs that they just picked up for free.
right.
Yeah. So, any questions so far? How much was a new roof? Let's see. A roof. It's probably gone up a little bit, but back then it was about $3 a square, and that's taking it off and replacing it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Is this an old estimator?
Yeah. No. Uh, I think I've got some guys that can do it pretty cheap, but
Okay.
it's probably costs more now.
And again, it doesn't matter what estimator you're using, just using something that lists every possible thing you would have to do at a house, and you can always put 0 that you don't need to do it. And then in different areas, like as I said, here in Central Texas, granite cabinets are cheap. Then you get into other things that are expensive here. So dirt is expensive here. Go figure.
Right? Yeah, so this is just them doing the roof.
They're actually good with this also because it's a rectangular house with a simple roof. It was a 1 day, it was not even a full day job. This was an
And
easy
not a
one.
high pitch either.
No.
Remember, Andrew, we've done a house where there were what was the highest that we've ever done where how many layers of shingles?
Oh my goodness.
Remember they
Was it
it was a
7?
mason. Yeah. It was a
Yeah,
mason.
so we had a house that had we've had houses that had foundation issues or sinking issues. And one of the houses, it's legal to just roll new shingles over old shingles. There are people who would argue it actually helps insulation and sound barrier. It's not necessarily the right way to do it, but it's not uncommon. We had one house where we were getting roofing estimates, and our builder, our GC, called us over. He's like, "You got to see this." And he was up there just beside himself. He's like, "Look, there's 3 layers. Wait. No, there's 4. Wait, there's 5." He just kept going. We ended up with 7 layers, which the amount, it actually showed how sturdy that house was, the fact that it hadn't collapsed, how much weight that was.
Yeah, so that's the biggest factor is the weight. And it was because, if I remember correctly, the seller was a mason and
He
he
had
had
wrapped the entire house in stone.
the outside and then a portion of the inside too, right? The living room
Mhm.
was stone. And so it could hold the weight where normal houses can't. So I think that was our record on that. So, okay. So hopefully that gave you a good feel for a deep dive into a very kind of standard rehab. And then next week, let's do an addition. That'll be fun.
Sounds
Because
good.
because the other piece is on this house, Andrew. Did you have to pull permits?
Nope.
No. When you open up walls, you have to do permits. When you're changing the electrical, right, in the walls, you have to do permits. And you didn't have to do permits on this house because it was just cosmetic. So, Andrew, let's just take a quick second, because tell them about this picture here, right? It is a screenshot of a site plan that matches what's behind you, and tell them what happened. Where are we at right now?
Which part? What do you tell me what you want?
That we own it.
Oh, we haven't, I don't know if we've told people that we own this. So we own this now. So this is
Yes.
43 acres, about, I don't know, 13 miles, 14 miles east of the Austin airport. Um, we are turning it into a, what I would call a luxury RV and cabin resort. And this area has a lot of RV parks, but they're very plain and simple. This will be more upscale, and here is why that is going to work in that area. Um, a couple things you can't see. One fun thing, this this is actually situated. Let me think this through. If you go up on the screen, that's west. The property west of us is a park. It's owned by Lower Colorado River Authority, and it's a park area. It's actually an archaeological site. And we saw they were starting to do like a staging area there, and we called them. It's actually a Harry Potter exhibit. They're going to have this 3/4 mile loop, that walking trail that goes through it with all the elements from the Harry Potter movies that kids can see at night, all lit up. So that's one part. Probably more important to us financially, though, is that all of the land to the northeast of us, and when I say to the northeast of us, I'm talking 2 miles away, was purchased by this guy named Elon Musk. And so far, he's built SpaceX there. I don't know if you want to pull up a picture of the SpaceX building. Um, but the SpaceX buildings, it's huge, and that's their main offices. Right across the street, he built the Boring Company, which builds tunnels. And they also just announced that X, Twitter, is moving their offices there. So we're 2 miles from all of that. And yeah, that's our project right now.
Yeah, so we had to get, especially in this kind of market, we had to get kind of creative, as always, and persevered through the purchase, in a market where what we're seeing is that people who have a lot of equity, are either conservative, given that there is an election coming up and it's pretty volatile, and the policies are very different, and they could impact what you do with money and the impact to money drastically. But then, Andrew, you were telling me a story of a builder who has money, and they were potentially interested in partnering with us, but right now, man, they just found killer deals because of the kind of market that you're in. And so we had to get super creative on how we were even able to close that deal. And I think that would be good for a future webinar as well, is how taking down commercial, and raising the capital to purchase it. Because what we did is we broke up buying the land and then doing the construction separately. But you've done a lot of the pre-work even before purchasing it for the construction, to make sure that it works, because there's a lot more that you have to do from a due diligence feasibility standpoint, and greasing the wheel. So I think we can do that as a future webinar as well.
Yeah, I would
And
love
that'll
to
be a
share all that.
multi-part one because it's such a big deal.
I would love to share all that.
Because you're planning on having how many units on this?
There'll be 220 RVs and 40 cabins that will Airbnb. There'll
Yeah,
be, you can see there's a 3.5 acre lake that'll have docks on it. The lake is 45 feet deep.
yeah.
There'll be a pool with the lazy river, something we were talking to friends of ours about last night. Um, I'm actually designing the lodge building right now. In fact, I'm back to that as soon as we get off of this. So it's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
no, it's fun, it's exciting. And then we've got stuff around us that we didn't expect to happen. So the other piece is that, we're still in design. So Andrew and I are kind of duking out, like if we're gonna do, what type of cabins. I'm pushing more for more tiny homes because of the area that's around us. We've got a lot of younger employees of Elon in the area. that might
Sorry,
be
I didn't
more
realize we were
techy.
duking it out. Who
We
does
are.
design? Oh, okay.
But the other beautiful piece about this is that we can design it to flex, right? So we can design it in a way where the infrastructure will work for an RV or for a cabin or for a tiny home, right? That we can flex as we see the market around us change. And the more ways that you can, and any deal that you do, the more ways that you can slice and dice and find a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, the better off that you will be as any kind of market changes. So that'll be a future one. And then next week, we'll do rehabbing part 4, where we're now going to do a rehab with an addition. And we'll do a case study with that one as well. So thank you guys for joining. Appreciate you being on this call and hanging out with us. And we will be posting this on YouTube and posting it into the Facebook group. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group already, look us up, Real Estate Investing for the Win. And then that way you can get the recaps, the replays, and join the conversation and network with us as well. So have a great day, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Take care.